Hello everyone and welcome back to Dark Souls Easy Mode. I grabbed another Firekeeper soul last time, so we're going to hand that into the Firekeeper at Firelink Shrine. And then with an Estus Flask at +2, we are pretty well set for the upcoming fight, but there's actually a few more things I want to do before we tackle the boss fight, but I'm going to do them this episode, and the boss fight's going to be probably the end of this episode, or it's going to be in this episode. There might be a little bit afterwards, but yeah, definitely going to put in the boss fight. But essentially there's a few things I want to do. There's one item I forgot to grab in the Undead Burg, which I think I'm going to get, but I'll go there from the other side. Firstly, there is some some combat I want to do here right here. Darn. That's a problem if you mess up getting the jumping attack, because you don't do the input correctly. I actually tend to not fail jumping attacks, but it happens on occasion, and well, one counter attack is enough. So this is what I meant to do, but I didn't press it quite correctly, so all I did was a standard heavy attack, and they can parry that. But yeah, it's fine. I want to go human for the boss fight, because that boss fight, especially for a beginner, is quite difficult without summoning help. But you can summon help. You just need to be human for it, basically. I don't know, it's just I got a little unlucky and failed the jumping attack. It happens. I know sometimes you just kind of don't get the timing right. This is what I meant to do. Titanite shard, nice. You can also use Titanite shards to upgrade your armor, by the way. And this, by the way, is a section for which I really like the longsword, because it has very good reach with the R2, the heavy attack. Okay, I think that's all the hollows done for. Now we just need to kill the channeler. There we go. The channeler's behavior is kind of random. He has a sort of buff, which looks like a silly dance, where he kind of dances about with his trident, but it gives a sort of slight blue aura effect to these hollows, and it increases the damage they do quite a bit. And as you run down this hallway here, sometimes he starts casting his soul magic at you. Sometimes he'll run in to try and melee you. Sometimes he'll start with the dance instantly and buff these guys. It's random how he starts the fight, so there's not much you can do to influence that. As far as I know, it's just you deal with what you're given, basically. So essentially, kill the hollows as they make their way down that hallway, and then deal with him last. Usually he sticks to that room. He doesn't always, but as I said, usually. There you go. Now you can parry these guys, but the timing is a little precise. So if you're not feeling secure there, just do what I did. Block and then counter attack. Back here there's a corpse in a barrel. with the humanity on it. So nice to have that. And this door here is breakable. This one isn't. The one on the other side, however, this one here is a little broken, so you can use any attack to open it. And then up here there's a dude. And we can either use the mystery key or the master key to open this door, and then he'll tell us he's Logic of Kareem and he's going to give us a reward, but not yet. Okay. And now I'm going to go back down to Firelink. Getting some screen tearing issues, but you shouldn't see them in the recording. It's an issue with the game being capped at 30 FPS and my screen running at 60 Hertz. So yeah, I'm getting some screen tearing because it doesn't sync up properly. If you don't want screen tearing, you need to turn on VSync, which apparently this game has, and I've turned it on, but it doesn't seem to work quite properly. Or I guess use the unlocker to unlock 60 FPS, but that can glitch out the game in other ways. Okay, now the guy we saved is sitting right here, and as a reward we get a Sunlight Medal. However, there is an event associated with him, and I'll get into the details of that as it becomes relevant. For right now, I'm going to leave him alive, because we are going to make the boss fight, the upcoming boss fight, really easy on ourselves. And when I say really easy, I do mean really, really easy. Fine, and die. Oh, that was way too early. You might remember I fought the Black Knight. And the Black Knight actually drops a ring, but I didn't pick it up. Well, it doesn't drop a ring. Why would I say drop? He guards a ring. But I didn't pick that up. It's not a very useful ring, but it's definitely better than no ring at all. So we're just going to go a little ways through this area again to go back to where he was. Still think this is faster than going from the other side, from Undead Parish, because then we'd have to go over the Dragon Bridge or Wyvern Bridge and fight our way backwards through that entire area, and that's a little tedious, so... not going to do that. Wow, way too early again. I'm not the best at parrying myself, so especially for tougher enemies, I tend to not even try, basically. Okay, come on. We're almost there now. Do I want to rest here? Probably not. And you dropped Hollow Soldier Helm. Now eventually you will unlock an NPC that allows you to sell basically excess items like that. You don't get much for it, probably 50 souls for each of these armor items. But if you kind of just collect them as you get them, it can still amount to a level up or two if you just sell everything you have. It's a bit tedious, but I guess you might as well. But if you're really worried about keeping your inventory clean, you can buy the bottomless box from the undead merchant. You know, the guy is somewhere that way. Behind the two spear dudes down the stairs, there's the undead merchant. He sells a bottomless box. And you can use that bottomless box to store items you don't want around. Just to prevent you from having to, say, scroll through all this junk if you're trying to get to a different weapon. Now I aggroed Spear Dude and Sword Dude at the same time, but Spear Dudes move really, really slowly, so it's fine. Try to avoid getting two Sword Dudes simultaneously, that's a bit tedious. And down here is where the Black Knight was, whom I killed. And he was actually guarding this corpse, which has a blue tier stone ring on it. This ring is not super useful. It boosts your defense while your HP is low. But in general, that's not particularly, I don't know, valuable. Because it doesn't increase your defense so much that it makes it worthwhile. You have to be below 20 or 30%, I'm not even sure, for the effect to be active. And at that point you're quite squishy and probably a one-hit kill to a lot of attacks, even with the boosted defense, so it's not really worth it to my mind. On the other hand, there is a sort of counterpart to that ring, which boosts your attack rating when you're below... Oh, not again. Ugh, be right back. And I'm back. Why, hey. So what I was saying is there's a counterpart to that blue tier stone ring called the red tier stone ring, which boosts attack rating as you are below... I think it's 20% health, but it might be 30. No, I think it's 20 and it was 30 in Demon Souls. Anyway, the point is the attack rating bonus means you're playing very riskily because you basically have very, very little health, so you have to avoid pretty much all damage or you'll be dead. But the boost to your damage is insane, so it's very, very valuable for that. It's a high risk, high reward thing, which for a beginner I would strongly advise against. Yeah, go back, heal yourself. Oh, you know you want to. Fine, then just die. But yeah, that at least makes sense. The blue tier stone ring always seems a bit seems like a bit of a contradiction, because at low health the additional defense just doesn't make much of a difference, because you're still very, very squishy and still going to die really fast. The channeler, by the way, the guy with the trident, he's unique, so he's not going to respawn. Well, he's not... When I say unique, I mean he doesn't respawn. There are more of them in the game. Some of them do respawn, but this one, if you kill it once, it's not going to come back. Okay, now we're making our way to the upcoming boss fight. If you still have some of that gold pine resin, it can be useful for this fight. And if you're human and you've done everything I've done so far, you can summon Night Lord Trek right here. And then up the ladder, just before the actual fog gate, you can summon Night Solaire. You can't actually touch the summon sign while another summon is in progress. But you can summon 2 NPCs for this fight. And I think the developers did this because this fight is a considerable increase in difficulty. compared to previous encounters. So they do give you the option of just basically completely obliterating the fight or the encounter by just overpowering the enemy. Okay. I'm now mid-rolling, but that's fine. I do not intend to actually do much. So here's a bit of a cutscene, which I skipped. The game doesn't register you skipping the cutscene instantly. Okay, there you saw, I cut the dude's tail off. That's just because I wanted the gargoyle tail axe. Okay, I'm actually doing some fighting, even though I said I wasn't going to. If you summon both of these guys, you're probably well capable of just AFKing throughout the fight. But yeah, it's difficult if you're by yourself and don't have super high damage, because it can very well happen that you're suddenly fighting two gargoyles without being really without being able to do enough damage, and having two of them, it's very difficult to find openings for attacks, and you have to avoid attacks from two enemies which might be at different directions from you. So it's not that easy if you have two of them, but if you summon both of the phantoms, it becomes a cakewalk basically. I mean, even with one phantom it becomes quite easy, but if you summon both of them, then I've tested this repeatedly, and usually if you just run in, make sure the phantoms are actually aggroed onto the boss, and then just keep your distance. You don't need to actually interfere with the fight much at all. They can pretty much do that without you. And that's the first bell rung. As I said, I'm skipping cutscenes and dialogues because this is not a lore-centered playthrough. That will happen at a later point. So yeah, this is basically gameplay advice on how to avoid the harsh difficulty. Okay, this guy will teach you a gesture. Why ever you want that, I don't know. You can buy purging stones here. I'm going to buy one just in case. I'd suggest get one or two. If you don't get one and you happen to get cursed at a later point, it's difficult to get, and that makes it tedious. And curse is really annoying, so I just bought one now. Maybe even get two. You get a ton of souls from this fight, so you should have enough to buy two. You don't have to if you play carefully, or if you avoid a certain part of an upcoming area, then you don't need them at all, really. But I would still suggest get one or two, because if you're just being a little careless or make a little mistake, it might well happen that you end up getting cursed, and that might put you in an area where you can't get an item that removes curse, but you're still cursed. So curse reduces your HP by half, and it's obviously a massive penalty and makes it kind of difficult to go forward. I'm just thinking, yeah, I'll probably want to go this way. Which, completely the wrong direction there. Doesn't matter. You dropped the Titanite shard. That's nice. I'm just going to the Undead Parish bonfire, which is this one over here by the blacksmith. I think I'll also spend some souls on upgrading the Zweihänder, which I got, and possibly pump my stats so that I can use it. I'm not sure if I have enough strength at this point. Yeah, you might have noticed that I'm still soul level 7, right? Yeah, and I do have enough strength, okay. Obviously that I kind of know what I'm doing, at least a little, okay? I'm not saying I'm super pro. There's tons of players who are better than me, so don't have to tell me that I died and therefore I'm not a god at this game. I am well aware of that. But the basic point is, I somewhat know what I'm doing, so I don't need to level up that much. Obviously, if you're not feeling so secure on your first playthrough, that's probably the case. I guess instead of buying the shards to upgrade your starting weapon to +5, or whichever weapon you want to use, I mean, you might have switched by now. But yeah, instead of buying those shards, you could just farm them and instead use the souls to gain a few more levels. So you could be level 15 or so and just have a few more stat points in vitality and endurance and
hello again.
Whatever you like, basically, to actually, let me see, purchase item. Did I buy? No, I'm going to buy all of these boxes here. That costs a lot of souls, but it is worth it to my mind. I can get 7 of those, right? Yeah. And then reinforce weapon. Where are you, Zweihänder? There you are. Zweihänder is a large weapon. It's considered an ultra greatsword, so as you can see, that costs 800 souls per upgrade step. So it's more expensive than others. If you look at, for example, the Claymore, that's, I think, a standard greatsword, so that costs 400, whereas the longsword is a just small weapon, so it costs 200. Basically, the size of the item kind of correlates to how much it costs, but still, 200, even 100 on these really small ones. That's kind of okay. And there's some special items that I've already gotten, like the Astora Straight Sword, which requires Twinkling Titanite. Those upgrades are always more expensive. So, for example, if I wanted to upgrade the Black Knight Sword, that would actually cost me a lot of souls. But I'm not really planning on doing that. Okay. I will actually end the episode here. I hope this was kind of useful to you. Maybe some helpful hints for the boss fight. Basically, my hint is summon. I mean, otherwise it's kind of basic what you want to do for the fight. Avoid damage, kill them, use the gold pine resin once you're kind of a little familiar with the fight. I would suggest, because the pine resin is very limited at this point, you have no real, well, anyway, you don't really have a way to farm it at this point. So I'd suggest probably trying the boss fight 3 or 4 times to, you know, get used to it, and maybe at least do it try it until you've killed one of the gargoyles at least once, and then use the pine resin to give yourself a boost. If you just use it in your first try, then you might very well be caught unawares by an attack you haven't seen before, and that might just kill you instantly, and then your resin is wasted. Anyway, yeah, that's my advice on the gargoyles. Summon help, and it's GG. Okay, yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.